Good day, everyone. I am Almar V. Villa, ED.D Science Education major. I'm teaching junior high school at Macario Bermejo National High School, Hamindan, Capiz. So I am a member of Group 2, which is tasked to report assessment, evaluation, instrument, and use. And for my topic, I am tasked to report part 1 of the item analysis. So bear with me as I discuss some important information for us to understand what is item analysis all about. I know that we as teachers in our different school, we are also doing item analysis, and some of us are familiar with this since it was taught to us during our MAT years in our subject statistics. So some of us already master and aware how important item analysis. So what is item analysis? So item analysis is a statistical technique which is used for selecting and rejecting the items of a test on a basis for their difficulty value and discriminative power. So item analysis technique helps in selecting the best items for final drop of the test, and poor items are rejected and the items are being modified. So in addition, item analysis is valuable for increasing instructor skills in test construction and identifying scientific areas of course content which need greater emphasis or clarity. So the procedure used to judge the quality of an item is called an item analysis. Item analysis is a process which examines students' responses to individual test items. Those are questions in order to assess the quality of those items and of the test as a whole. So it is important for us teachers to identify those hard questions for us to determine whether the test item is quality questions or not. So item analysis is an aspect of test analysis which involves examination of the characteristics of test items. So the effectiveness of each item can be determined by analyzing the pupil's response to the item. So this is known as item analysis. So it is where we analyze every item of the test questions to ask for us to determine its characteristics, whether it is relevant or not. In using SPSS, item analysis is a process mainly involving examination of item statistics supplemented by some thinking about item content and the test construct, including item difficulty, item spread, and item discrimination. So item analysis is done in research questionnaires, survey, measure, or test. It helps researcher to look the item in your questionnaires, test, survey, or measure and really think about if it's the item content correct, task construct correct, is it really encompassing and measuring the concept it's supposed to? So item analysis can look for your item difficulty as well as the spread of the item. How far are items similar or harder, or similar or easier, and are you able to reach the levels within your measurements with the items you have? And also items discrimination as how well the items fit together with other items to measure your overall concept. We have 10 purposes of item analysis. So number one there is to judge the worth or quality of test. To know whether the test questions are quality, so it is worthy to be included in our test. So we can know, okay? So classification of students or candidates. So we may classify students who are behind, lagging behind, or not. Whose of them understand and learn the concept well. Okay, so number three, selection of the candidates for a job. So it can help us determine who will fit for a certain job in cases of hiring personnel. For example, there is qualifying examination. So number four, promotion and prognosis of the candidates or students. So it is important to know whether that student will be promoted in the next school year level or not. Number five, more diagnostic examination on students. It will help us determine how well is the performance of our students. The number six, establishing individual differences. To know capabilities of our students, each individual differences in every concept in our subject areas. For example, the number seven there is aids in subsequent test revisions. To avoid frequent revisions of the test and questionnaires, to avoid stress also, effort and waste of time for revisions, making sure also that these test items are quality and ready to be given to our students. And the number eight there is to increase skills in test construction. This is important for us teachers to master the skills of making questions. So able us to be skillful and to master in making test questionnaire constructions, which can be applied to us teachers when making our examinations in schools. And the number nine brings about improvement in testing methods and techniques. It can improve our testing methods and techniques as innovative teacher, as a 21st century teacher, especially we are dealing today's pandemic of a new normal situation in our community. And then number 10, make decisions about promotion of students to the next higher grade. It can help us decide whether to promote or retain our students in the next school year. So it is very important, and this item analysis purpose is very important for us to know. So for the objectives, number one is to select the appropriate items for the final draft and reject the poor items which do not contribute to the functioning of the test. Some items to be modified. So item analysis obtains the difficulty values of all items of preliminary draft of the test. So the items are classified difficult, moderate, easy items. It provides also the discriminative power, item reliability or validity, to differentiate between capable and less capable examinees of all the items. The reliability and validity of tests also depends upon the characteristics of tests. So both these indexes are considered simultaneously in selecting and rejecting the items of a test. So we have also that item analysis is a cyclic technique. So these modified items are tried out and their items analysis is done again to obtain this indexed or difficulty and discrimination. So the empirical evidences are obtained for selecting the items for the final draft. So procedures involved in item analysis. So we have the qualitative. Qualitative item analysis procedures include proofreading of the exam prior to administering it for. So these are the typographical errors for grammatical cues and appropriateness of the reading level of the material. So conducting small groups discussion of students after the exam and sometime with the experts. So post-exam discussions would assist the teacher to identify the particular item misinterpreted and the reason for misinterpretation. This helps able to identify items in the test questionnaire, which is hard or easier, and make some discussions and explanations also to the students. So it may cater some clarifications and answers of some misinterpreted questions on the examination. On the previous slides, I have discussed about the qualitative. So under procedures involved in item analysis, we have also quantitative. So it involves three numerical indicators. They are item difficulty index, item discrimination index, and distractor power. So I will explain this one by one on the next slide. First up on qualitative, we have the item difficulty index. Okay, so item difficulty index portrays the easiness of an item because the higher the percentage, the easier the item. So item difficulty index is symbolized by letter P. So the procedures for determining item difficulty index is to count the number of students who answered the item correctly and divide the number by the number of students included for analysis. Formula-wise, item difficulty is, okay, for the formula, item difficulty or letter P equals to R divide it by T. Let R or R represents as number of students who carefully answer the item, and T is the number of students included for the analysis. Let me give you an example. For example, let R equals to 14 and you have letter T as 30 students. So when you substitute to the given formula, so you have 14 students who got correct answer for the certain test item, divide it by 30 students, which are the total number of students who answered the test item. So, and for our P now, when you divide and substitute using the formula, you have the answer 0.46, so which will be determined later in our scaling if the P value is difficult or not. So we have the scaling also, which I will be discussing on the next slide. Let me discuss first that difficulty index can range theoretically from 0.00 to 1.00, which means 0.00 when number of students answered the item correctly, and 1.00 when all students answered the item correctly. So an item with a p-value of 1.00 is the easiest in the test. So it cannot differentiate between a students of higher abilities and one with lower abilities. However, one or two items having high p-value should be used and placed in the beginning of the test for motivational purposes. So it is important when making your test or examinations, you have to put those questions on the first item of the test for motivation purposes or for your learners to motivate to answer and finish the examinations, having 1.00 as P or difficulty index of that certain questions. On your screen or on your slide, so we have here the level of difficulty. So we have there the index range from 0.00 to 1. Okay, so the difficulty level, we have there the very difficult, okay, difficult, average, or moderately difficult, easy, and very easy. So based on our example a while ago, so we already have our p-value, which is 0.46. So when we use the scaling, 0.46 belongs to the index range of 0.41 to 0.60, which consider the difficulty level under average, moderately difficult. Since the item is average, moderately difficult, the question now is, you revise or not the test item? So before we decide, let's continue first our discussions. So we have already discussed about the difficulty index. Let's move on to item discrimination index. So it's represented by letter D. So the item discrimination index of the test refers to the degree which the item discriminates between high-achieving students and low-achieving students in terms of the scores of the total test. So in technical sense, item discrimination index addresses the validity of the test item. For example, the extent to which the item tests the attributes it was intended to test. So let's move on to item discrimination index, which is represented by letter D. So for the formula to determine the item discrimination index, we have D equals to RU minus RL, divide it by 1/2 T, which is RU are the number of students in the upper group who got the item right, and RL number of the students in the lower group got the item right, and half T or 1/2 T equals to 1/2 of the total number of students included in the analysis. Okay, this item discrimination formula can be appreciated in the part 2 of the discussion using Excel and SPSS to be reported on the part 2 of this topic. But let me give you one example using this formula. Okay, so the item discrimination index formula, which is posted here. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is to divide the groups into 3. For example, you have 30 students who get the examination on the first item of the exam. And then you divide it by 3. So we have 10 for the upper. Okay, for the upper, middle 10 also, and then 10 students also on the lower. So you add the scores for the upper and you add the scores also for the lower groups. And then you don't need this middle group. Okay, so the given here is RU, which is 8 here for the upper group of students. And then for the lower group of students, we have here 3. So given this numbers, how to get 1/2 T? So the total number is 30, but then you only use 10 response on the upper group and 10 response also on the lower group, which is 20. Divide it by 2 to get the total of 10. So let's substitute to get the item discrimination index. So using the formula, let's substitute D equals to RU is 8 minus the RL or the lower group is 3. Divide it by 10. So your D here is 5/10, and we got an answer for 0.5, which is very good item. So the 0.5 can be classified as very good item. On the next slide, we have our scale for that. So here in your screen are the scaling on how to determine that index of discrimination or item discrimination index based on our example, the 0.5, which is the very good item, so belongs to 0.40 and above. So this scale is average classroom test, and these indices are widely accepted according to Peebles in the year 1972. Okay, this item discriminations are widely used. Okay, so in a classroom setup. So item discrimination index, the resulting index can range from positives 1.00, where all students from the upper group got the items right, and all the students from the lower group got the items wrong, to negative 1.00, where all students in the upper group got the items wrong and all students from the lower group got the item right. So an index of 0.00 or no discriminating index occurs when an equal number of students in each group got the items right. So item discrimination index, okay, let's have this important information to consider. So number one there is the higher the discrimination index, the better and more reliable the test. So when items have no discrimination power or negative discrimination power, they should be revised or discarded. So this usually indicate that the items are written ambiguously, the answer on the scoring key is the wrong, or that the content to which the item refers to was too obscure. Types of discrimination index. So we have three: positive discrimination, negative discrimination, and zero discrimination. So for the positive discrimination, it happens when more students in the upper group got the items correctly than those students in the lower group. So in our example a while ago, it is 8 for the upper group, okay, and 3 for the lower group. So it is a positive discrimination. How about negative discrimination? It's of course when more students in the lower group got the items correctly than the students on the upper group. So kabaliktaran siya from the positive discrimination, which is the lower group are higher, okay, than onto the upper group. How about the zero discrimination? So this happens when the number of students in the upper group and lower group who answers the test correctly are equal. Okay, so pareho sila sang scores. And for the distractor power, so the third statistics is distractor power. So it provides information about effectiveness of the distractors. Ground, Land, and Lim, okay, on 1990 states that this can be determined by inspection, and so there is no need to calculate index. So in general, a good distractor should discriminate between upper and lower groups. So we have procedures on item analysis. First, you have to conduct the test or exam and score them. So suppose we have conducted test on 21 students. So arrange them all answer sheets in order of merit from highest to lowest, I guess. So calculate the 27% of the answer sheet. Then after that, for a group of 21 students, it will be approximately of 6. So select 6 papers with the highest total score and the 6 papers within the lowest total scores, and then put aside 9 papers. Okay, they will not be used. Okay, compute the difficulty index of each item using the formula and the scaling, and compute the discriminating index for each item, okay, using also the formula. And then now you can now evaluate the effectiveness of this structure on your questionnaire, exams, or test. To wrap up this report, so for our conclusion, so item analysis is an effective way to select the appropriate items for the final draft of our examinations or questionnaires, and reject the poor items which do not contribute to the functioning of our test or examinations. So I have there suggested link in item analysis for you to understand well and to know the process on how to get item analysis. We have there also templates, ready-made templates, automated templates. It would be easy for us to use as teachers. And item analysis using SPSS also for the beginners. We have steps there, and you can watch the YouTube video for that. So I have posted the links there. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you learned something about my report. And yeah, so probably if there's any clarification and may mga wala ako na include in my report. So I'm sorry for that, and maybe you can watch information and research informations about item analysis for you to understand the topic very well. So I guess I have done my part. So thank you very much for listening. So thank you very much, and God bless everyone. Again, thank you. And for the references of my topic, I posted there, and I'll send you also my handouts. Thank you very much, and God bless everyone. Bye.